The leading cause of death in Australia between 15 and 44 is suicide. And that has increased from 2,800 to 3,100 in just a year time.
Can I have a show of hands who has heard of RUOK before today?
We really like to empower everyone to meaningfully connect to your friends and your colleagues and your families. Are you okay? It's a great place to start. And you start conversations. And it's as simple as asking the questions, are you okay?
I'd like you all to seriously think about when was the last time you asked someone, are they okay? And really meant it. Every year, RUOK do a tour of the country to bring awareness to communities to try and teach them of how to stay together. And this year's tour is called Trust the Signs Tour. And I think it's an absolutely brilliant name because one thing we all have as human beings is gut instinct. So you need to trust it with your workmates and friends and colleagues. If something's wrong, you'll know, your gut will tell you. We've all had that one person in our lives that doesn't seem right. They could be withdrawn when they're normally bright or bubbly, or just showing behaviour that's out of character. Last year I lost my husband to suicide. We'd been together for 20 years and in that whole time he struggled with anxiety and depression. Then one day was different. Immediately I knew that something wasn't right, all the signs were wrong, because it was different to the anxiety and depression he'd had over the last 20 years. He continued like this for about 11 months and he left a trail of destruction behind him with family, friends and work colleagues. Finally, he crashed out of this episode and he was formally diagnosed with manic bipolar. He looked at the destruction that he left behind him and he couldn't cope, so he took his life in January last year. It was the hardest day of my life telling my son that his dad had passed away. One of the key things that I've learnt from RUOK is taking care of your own mental health first. So even though my husband took his own life, of course I had the guilt trip of what could I have done to prevent it, what could I have done to stop him from doing it, but I can't take on personally the decision he made. At the end of the day, it was his decision. It's very hard to get to that point to accept that though.
So has anyone heard about ALEC?
It's an acronym that RUOK uses to remember the 4 steps of RUOK. Ask, listen, encourage action and check in. Ask is pretty obvious, simply ask the question, are you okay?
How's everything? Are you okay? And you become more specific because you're concerned about something. So for example, your mate is less chatty.
Don't hesitate to ask the question. You might just get, yeah, I'm okay. So you've got nothing to lose by asking the question. By asking it, you could save a life. Listen without judgment. Take what they're telling you seriously. Don't just blow it off. Don't interrupt them and don't rush the conversation.
There's a thing called golden silence. You will encounter a long silence. Don't panic, be patient.
They may need that time to process in their head what they want to say to you.
And then you encourage actions.
You can suggest ways to help them. What can I do for you right now?
If someone is really low or depressed for more than 2 weeks, or you think they are at risk, please contact professionals.
Do you need me to make a doctor's appointment for you? Do you want me to come home with you? Do you want to go and have a beer? There's so many little ways as mates that we could do this. And sometimes just talking to them is probably what they need to start their conversation and get the ball rolling to then get them to the doctor and get help.
And then you check in on them.
Because you need to follow up. There's no point having the beer that day with your friend and hearing how bad their life is at the moment and they're having suicidal thoughts. But a week later, not checking in with them.
You encourage, for example, Tom to see a doctor. Say, well, I think, Tom, you need to see a doctor.
Don't push if you've made that appointment, but just point it out. You'll probably find that they'll appreciate it and they will respond to you. Everyone
should learn the skill, and this is something very simple. The ALEC conversations could help save a life.
RUOK Days, just although it is today officially, it should be every day. Take the time to ask. Even if you think nothing's wrong with your mate next door, just say, how you going, mate? Is everything really good? And really mean the question. Engage with them. It's really important.
What would you do if someone told you that they were thinking about harming themselves? What do you do next?
Under Mental Health Act, you will have to call the ambulance and they will have to go and find him and get him assessed by the psychiatrist team.
I would call the ambulance, but I'd stay with them the whole time.
It's a bit like CPR, but as I say, CPR, you call the ambulance as well.
How do I then talk to the parent of, the spouse of, the friend of someone who has committed suicide?
Not to avoid it. Don't be afraid to even just say to that person, is there anything I can do for you? Or how are you travelling? How are you going? It's actually a really good question. And if I don't want to get into it with someone, I don't. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm going really well. Because I might not be that close to that person or not feel like opening up at that time. But avoiding it is even worse.
Thank you.